Welcome to Write Your Book in a Flash with Dan Janal, the only podcast where you'll learn how successful people just like you have grown their businesses, expanded their influence, and made more money by writing a book. On each episode, you'll learn the inside secrets to help you create a book that can serve as a powerful marketing tool to skyrocket your business. I'm your host, Dan Janal. I help thought leaders, business executives, and entrepreneurs write their books. To find out more, go to writeyourbookinaflash.com. Now, let's welcome today's guest, Mike Capuzzi. How are you, Mike?
Hey, Dan, I'm well and looking forward to this. I'm a fan of yours, so I appreciate this opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. You know, Mike, books are changing. I've been preaching that in the last 90 some odd episodes of my podcast, that books are not what they used to be. No one wants to read a 300 or 400 page book anymore. People want to pick up a book when they get on a plane in New York and finish it by the time they get to Los Angeles. The formats have changed, the sizes have changed, the interior layouts have changed. It's all being redone. It's completely disruptive. And you're disrupting the system even more. So tell us about your journey and your solution.
Yeah, well, the quick story, Dan, is I'm actually an engineer by degree, did that for a number of years. Then I worked in the software industry and then left the software industry. It was a very small company. I got very big, which ironically, Dan, just went public in the last 6 months and I kept my stock. So that was 20 some odd years ago. So, but in that software company, I went from a technical role to a marketing role. And that's when I left it at the height of the dot-com bubble. I started my own consulting company and I was helping fairly large businesses with marketing. When I first met Dan Kennedy, who I know you're a mutual fan of and friend with, it changed the way I looked at marketing. I really started studying direct response marketing, also shifted who I started working with, which were more small and medium-sized business owners. So I've been doing that, Dan, since 1998. And wrote my first book in 2007. And yeah, it's been a great ride.
Super. And you're helping lots of people now with really short books. In fact, you coined a new term for that. So why don't you tell us about your latest venture and how that will help speakers, authors, consultants, and top business leaders?
Yeah. So we, as marketers, if you're a business owner, you should be a marketer of that business. But as a marketer, one of the key things you have to figure out, Dan, is how do you differentiate yourself? So you mentioned, there's a ton of people that help others with books and publishing books. There's traditional publishers, there's boutique publishers, there's people that help with self-publishing. So again, using my engineer brain, I sort of had to come up with my own sort of formula. And we've come up with a brand, if you will, it's a short, helpful book. And these are short, helpful, direct response marketing books that we call Shooks. So a Shook is a short, helpful book, Dan, but it follows a very specific formula when we help our authors create them. They are direct response books. They are books that are meant to be given away, not sold. You make your money on the back end with your services, et cetera. So these are nonfiction books that are really, business card on steroids. And, the reason I came up with the Shook, Dan, is, and you mentioned it. I love reading. I've got, hundreds, if not thousands of books in my library. But I'm a father of 2 kids. I've got a lot of things going on. I don't know how many times I've started a book and not finished it because I've lost interest or whatever. So I thought, why not make it easier on people? Why not allow someone to read a helpful book in about an hour or so? So even quicker, they can read a couple between New York and LA, but really allow them to read it, because when someone finishes a book, they always feel a sense of accomplishment. The author is going to appreciate it. So it's a true win-win situation, Dan. Short, helpful, and really about a specific direct response formula to get readers to take action.
So what are the key elements in a Shook?
Focus, so highly focused. You can imagine, Dan, and so we always say like a Shook is about a 1 hour conversation with you and a reader, right? So in 1 hour, you can't teach everything you know about a topic, nor should you, right? You should have a series of Shooks. So focus is one. Direct response triggers. And again, I know you know all this, Dan. I've read your books, but a lot of folks don't know this. You have to give readers a way to connect with you. And there's 2 types of readers that should be connecting. One who's highly interested. So we call that, you have to provide an active pathway, an active call to action. What do you want that person to do who's really interested? And then there are the folks that are interested, but they're not as interested, and they need what we call the passive pathway, which allows them to opt in for some more information and get some more information from you and add it to your list. So those triggers are unique to Shooks, well, into our formula. And then the design itself, Dan, you mentioned, a bit different design. Our trim size, which is the size of the book, and these are paperback books primarily, a little bit smaller. The design inside, Dan, I tested a bunch of different designs with my list, and then the one that was the most readable, meaning physically readable, right? So as I get older, things are getting harder to read. That's a little bit different. We want to make our books easy to read so that they can be read. So those are a couple differences: focus, design, direct response triggers.
Cool. So, I love the fact that you've actually divided the idea of the call to action to active calls to action and passive calls to action. I'm not sure I've heard that before, but it makes so much sense when we think of an active. Can you define more of what an active call to action is? I know from reading the book, but let's get this on tape so everyone else knows.
Yeah, so let's talk about your coach clients, the folks that are coaches and consultants, right? So matter of fact, we just finished a Shook for a gentleman who runs a sales consulting business. And it just went live this week, as a matter of fact. And his active call to action is he wants to work with big companies to come in as a trainer. So his active call to action was a typical thing that a lot of coaches probably use: a strategy session, a discovery call. So he has reasons why a person who's highly interested in what he has to say in his book, his Shook, to engage him with a discovery call about his training services. So that is the active pathway. The person who's, I love what I'm reading about Dan. I want what Dan has. What's next, right? The passive, again, is someone who says, well, I love what Dan's doing. I'm just not ready to get on a call with them yet. Therefore, let's offer he or she some more information in exchange for their name and email so that we can have a good follow-up campaign to get them to the active pathway.
Perfect. Makes total sense. How else? Okay, once you produce the Shook, the consultant produces the Shook. How does he or she use it in their marketing? How do they get it into people's hands?
Yeah, and I also forgot, Dan, one of the other big benefits, which all the light was kind of on the reader. Obviously, Dan, and I know you've written a ton of books, a short book is a lot easier to write, right? So it doesn't have to take weeks or months or even years. So for the author, the person writing it, it's a heck of a lot quicker. So I wanted to throw that out there. But as far as marketing.
Well, let me interrupt there. How quick the average person, because some of my people can write really well. Some of my people dictate their books while they're stuck in the car, which I love. Yep. But let's dispel the myth that it takes a long time to write a book.
It doesn't have to. It can, though. And some people, you know what I'm talking about. By the way, your book, Write Your Book in a Flash, I read that when I came out, and I love that. I mean, I love the way you described it, the paint by system numbers, and I just love that when you wrote that. But so our program, they work with me directly, and it's a step-by-step process. So our average author goes through it about 8 to 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. Again, there's work. This is not just like, do it in a weekend thing. Our world record is 22 days from idea to printed books. So that person really got her book done quickly, her Shook done quickly. But this is sort of a system where we want to think through things, Dan. We want to come up with the best title possible. We want to come up with the best calls to action, et cetera, best outline. So yeah, it's an iterative process that takes some time, but definitely not measured in months or years.
Cool. So let's get back to the question I so rudely interrupted you on. Once you have your Shook, how do you use it in marketing?
Yeah, and I would say, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir to you, but I just was talking to a client from Switzerland this morning. He just finished his book this week, and I told him, I said, hey, the fun part begins now. The hard part begins. Writing, it's the easy part. You've seen it, I've seen it. I even sometimes succumb to it. Is, listen, the book is done, and then you sort of get excited for a little while, and then you sort of forget about it. Book marketing, especially the kind of books we're talking about here, requires a very consistent, a very persistent use of them. And there's a ton of online ways, a ton of offline ways, Dan. As a matter of fact, I just wrote a book called The Magic of Free Books. And because, a free book, a book that's meant to be given away to ideal readers, there's some different strategies you want to use. So for my local business owners, which are, dentists, lawyers, doctors, etc., one of the best strategies they can use are a strategic partner network. So, displaying their books in other people's places of businesses, at other events, at other opportunities. So getting in front of other people's customers, that's a real smart strategy, really, for the local business owner who has that. I mean, for online guys, for guys that have more of an international reach, the proverbial free book funnel, which has been, around for years in different versions, but where you offer the book for free, charge for shipping, and then have a couple upsells which allow you to recoup some costs for the advertising, is another tried and true method. But yeah, my new book is all about ways to leverage a free book. So yeah, there's a couple right there. And by the way, podcasting is a real smart strategy for getting your book out there.
Very cool. Can you tell us one or two success stories that your clients have had?
Yeah, unfortunately, this one gentleman passed away not too long ago. So this gentleman was a dentist, but he was a different type of dentist, Dan. So he was a dentist that doesn't use mercury or fluoride, a holistic dentist, a biological dentist. But he had that unique opportunity, gave him the opportunity to write a book, a short book, on the dangers of mercury in your mouth. So if you have those silver amalgams in your mouth, you have mercury in your mouth. So he wrote a short book, published it, and he used the strategic partner thing. So he put his books out there in health food stores, yoga studios, places where people who are health oriented would be hanging out. And within the first 30 days, Dan, of doing that, which cost him basically nothing, he got, I think it was like 3 or 4 new patients, which are worth at the time a couple $1,000s to him. So that's an example of a Main Street owner. We just published a co-authored shook for 2 lawyers, and these lawyers help consumers who've been injured by household products. So a faulty object, a faulty device, and again, they just promoted their book to their email list, right? And got 2 people who are on that list within about the first month or so, just by saying, listen, we've written this book on this very specific topic, grab a copy for free. And 2 clients, 2 people that became clients with cases rose up through the ranks. So those are just 2 off the top of my head recent examples.
Very cool. When I talk to my clients and they ask how to make money from the book, and I say, you're not going to sell 10,000 copies on Amazon. And the profit margin on that is so small as to be ridiculous. You really want to use the book to get the consulting contracts and the speaking engagements that were $5, $10, $15, $50,000 and up. But I can't help but feel a little bit of professional jealousy when I looked up your book the other day and saw that you were number 3 in a category where I'm number 47. So I have to ask you, how did you do it?
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you, we were actually number 1 earlier this week. So, and then was it the Kindle version? I'm assuming it was the Kindle, or were you looking at the
Kindle
print
versions? Yeah, everyone's reading Kindle.
Print's a little harder. We were number 1 at print. So that book has been an Amazon number 1 bestseller since July. So it's been about 8 months. So first of all, Dan, I wrote the 100-page book, which I'm going to give everybody who's listening an opportunity to read it, because it's a great little book about how to write a 100-page book. That's all you need to create for the kind of books you and I are talking about today. However, there was a second reason I wrote it, Dan, which was I had always sort of poo-pooed Amazon bestseller, okay, it changes hourly. But using my engineer brain, I really did a deep dive on what it means to really leverage Amazon. So everything about this book, Dan, everything from the keywords, the cover, everything was strategically thought out. And it worked. So, we didn't do a big launch. I don't do these big launches. I promoted it to my list. I had a couple of, joint venture partners promoted to their list. And then we just put some paid advertising behind it after it really started getting traction. And yeah, we've sold, now for the first time ever, Dan, I have literally sold thousands, multiple thousands of copies of this book around the world, which again is kind of testimony that if that's important to you, it can be done. You just have to research and understand how to leverage Amazon. So I'll be happy to share offline, Dan, a little training I put together about it and give you access to it. But it's, you just got to figure out what Amazon's looking for and then feed that beast.
Well, I'm sure my publisher would love to know those tricks. Hey, Mike, you've been a great guest. I really appreciate it. You mentioned you want to give everyone a gift. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so I mentioned the 100-page book. I mean, you can grab it on Amazon. It's in audio version, Kindle, print. But if you don't mind reading it online, I'm going to give you access to the 100-page book, which gives you the exact recipe, Dan, of the kind of books we publish for our clients. And then I have a little quick start guide I put together. It's one that we give to our clients, but I thought your listeners would appreciate it. And again, it just shows what we call the building blocks behind a shook. So they know exactly. And what I recommend is they just print that off and use that as sort of a roadmap if this sort of inspires them to write their own short book.
Great.
And that's mikecapuzzi.com/gifts.
Great. Let's repeat that so everyone can write it down slowly. What web address should they go to download your free gift?
It's Mike Capuzzi, so MikeCapuzzi.com/gifts, and that's plural, GIFTS.
Super. And tell us, who is your ideal client? Who do you love working with?
I love working with people that just have an important message to share, that really see the value in sharing that message, and then are motivated. We deal with, I'd say, about 2/3 what we call Main Street business owners, so local business owners, and about 1/3 of our authors are what I would consider coaches, consultants, executives that have a worldwide reach. But it's about the motive. Dan, it's guys like you and me that just love marketing, love helping people, and see the value in a book, which is still a great asset to have.
Super. Thank you so much for being with us today, Mike.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for listening to the Write Your Book in a Flash podcast with Dan Janal, the only podcast that shows you exactly how people just like you have built their businesses by writing a book. If you'd like to write your book but don't know where to start, you can find great information at writeyourbookinaflash.com. If you're ready to take your next step to write the book that can transform your business, I invite you to schedule a free, no-obligation consulting call with me by going to writeyourbookinaflash.com. We'll be back next week with another insightful interview to help you become a top business leader.